Welcome to the Starfighter Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Starfighter Podcast. It's the co-hosts and creators of the show, Dom and Jake. Jake, how are you doing this week?
Doing good. How about you?
Good. The weekend came pretty fast, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Definitely. Also, wanted to mention we're just coming off of a great live stereo show that we did yesterday. You know, for our listeners and viewers, go subscribe to us on the Stereo app. Check out that app if you haven't already. Really awesome for podcasts and for just building an audience, being able to interact with your audience. We talked to tons of people yesterday. We talked Star Wars, we talked Marvel, we talked cheeseburgers, huge debates over there. I mean, it was all over the place, but it was great.
Yeah, man, I agree. Yeah, I was shocked how many people were participating in anything. I looked at the stats that you sent me, and it was like in the 90s for messages that people sent in. So yeah, it was awesome just to hear from everybody, hear their opinions, and talk about it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, hear their Wookiee impressions. It was awesome. So yeah, be sure to check that out, guys. And of course, subscribe here to our channel on YouTube. Leave us a like, leave us a review if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts is what I mean. Leave us a review on there and continue to support our show. We really appreciate it, and we've got more content coming your way. But we are here tonight talking about WandaVision episode 8, and man, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to be doing, of course, another spoiler review, breaking down everything. And yeah, let's get into it, Jake. Let's go with some quick first reactions. You want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I thought this episode had a lot of cool features, just kind of giving us scenes from the past that weren't in any other movies. And it really explains the characters more. I mean, we really got to know more about Wanda and her abilities, and really see more of her past that we didn't even have in any of the previous movies. So that was pretty cool to see, and just sort of the character development between that. And looking forward to the finale next week. It's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to be too much of a downer. I know I talked to you a little bit about, some nitpicky stuff, but basically I think out of all the episodes, and I'm still very hopeful going forward, but out of all the episodes, I feel like this had the most disappointment for me. We had talked about in one of our previous episodes, we were liking the direction that they were going with the cosmic universe and everything. And obviously they kind of changed directions here a little bit with introducing more magic, which, also we kind of knew that was probably going to happen too. There was a very likely chance of that. But just like, the way they did it, I don't know. It just, it wasn't for me. I thought it was kind of lame. Didn't really capture me very much. Found it pointless a lot of times, but we'll get into more of that. And that's just some of the negative stuff. But overall, there was a lot of positive things, a lot of really cool moments, and great, like, emotional and heartfelt scenes too, I think. And we'll get into all of that. So yeah, we can just start from the beginning of that intro with Agatha. And again, this is really, the stuff that I didn't really care for. Again, I think it was pretty pointless. I've watched it a couple times. It's like I just don't see how it really ties much into the rest of the show. Well, what do you think of the intro? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think we wanted to see sort of a connection between Agatha and Wanda, and it's not really there. Basically, from this, okay, she's been alive for hundreds of years. We don't know much about her powers. She's just kind of always had them. Who knows if it'll explain it more about them possibly being sorcerers like Doctor Strange. That's kind of what it's been seeming like, as far as getting her power from the dark dimension and everything like that. But then for it just to be like, oh, she felt something and was drawn to Wanda or whatever and trying to figure out her powers, I felt like there should have been more of a connection between them. And yeah, the scene doesn't really tell us hardly anything. It just kind of reaffirms what they already told us last week, that she's behind this and that she's basically the bad guy, which I can see being part of the disappointment, because this show all along has really set up hints and clues that you try to figure out. But then I feel like the most important conclusions to these questions have been the obvious ones. Like, she was obviously bad the whole time. So, I mean, who knows? They could flip it again next week in the finale. It's possible. But yeah, nothing really stood out as crazy in this episode. And so for as long as it was, yeah, it was really good, but just not the insanity that I guess I expected from the final penultimate episode.
Right, definitely. I totally agree and see those points for sure. And you know what it is too, man? It's like up until, recently, we didn't have to take Agatha so seriously. Again, yeah, it was the obvious way to go, having her as the villain, especially if you're like us and you know some of the lore and background of who she is. But we didn't have to take her so seriously, and I think we honestly had a lot more fun with her character when we didn't have to. You know what I mean? But now that she's the bad guy, and especially in this introduction, they're forcing us to take her a lot more seriously, and it didn't work for me. I liked her way more when she was, like the comic relief, at at a lot of points, and just I don't know, find her less interesting right now. But hope maybe that'll change next week. And again, like when it comes to Marvel, like obviously they do most things really well and nearly perfect as far as like overall being able to conclude a entire huge story with such a big franchise with so many movies. But when you talk to a lot of the fans, a lot of them are of the mindset that the thing that they struggle with the most is having a really good villain. And I don't think Agatha is in the running for being a really good villain right now. Just from what we've seen so far. Again, that could change. Hopefully it does, but we'll see. We know that Wanda wants to, attack Agatha, and she's trying to figure out where Billy and Tommy are. Agatha traps her, like in a spell or whatever, and stops her, from getting anywhere. And Agatha wants to know Wanda's secrets. Again, how did she do all of this? How did she create this hex, this crazy alternate reality? She wants to know. And so she takes Wanda on this journey of her past, something that's very interesting that we've seen throughout the show, again, playing on these traumatic events in her life. This is where stuff starts to definitely pick up and become more interesting, to me at least. But yeah, so we start out by going through these different doors. And so we'll go through door number 1 first, and that's their family apartment, Wanda's family apartment back in Sokovia. And so we obviously see her parents, and we see little Pietro running around. They're having family time, right? The dad gets home. They're gonna watch, the Dick Van Dyke Show, Wanda's favorite episode. She talks about how it's a really silly episode. It has to do with like, mischief, and so they're all excited about that. Of course, they're having a good time, and then we hear this explosion. The lights go out, and we kind of saw it coming too, and we've seen scenes just like this as well, like in Age of Ultron. But of course, we then see Tony Stark's missile there. And Jake, tell me your thoughts on this scene.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. For starters, it deconfirms the theory that anybody in those commercials were like her parents or anybody like that. So I guess they're just random people. But it was funny to see them actually plainly reference the shows that they were referencing all throughout the show by name and everything like that. So that was cool. But but yeah, it was interesting. This starts to develop, sort of trying to see when she got her powers. And so for them to survive the explosion in the first place when they were like 2 feet away from her parents, I guess that's something too. Um, but I guess it leaves you with questions. What exactly was she able to do beforehand? Was this the only time? I sort of thought from here we might go through different times in her life that showed that she had powers before the Mind Stone. But I guess was really the only one, and she even didn't really believe it. Agatha said that she was using probability spells, so basically her power of luck, I guess. Um, so it was just kind of strange way to tie it together. I guess this sort of makes sense, but I mean, is it the same case for Pietro? Did he have something?
Yeah.
Was he moderately fast? Like he could run like 30 miles per hour before? Like what was that whole deal? And we didn't see his experiment or anything, so we'll probably never see that. And I guess it doesn't matter because he's dead anyways. And the show's about Wanda, but yeah. And then like you said, we see the missile, the same blinking that was from the first episode on the toaster. And then yeah, just it was interesting to see more about her past though, which we don't basically know anything. She just kind of shows up in Age of Ultron. There's a lot going on in Age of Ultron with a lot of new characters, so it's nice to kind of go back a little bit and see some origin story.
Yeah, definitely. And those are my only other two gripes that you mentioned briefly. It's like, she already had powers supposedly, which is new, and we'll get into more of that later. But there's that, and then the whole thing with fake Pietro that we're going to touch on soon. Those are my other two gripes with this episode. But yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. We'll talk more about it. Everything else is pretty good. But door number 2, we go to the Hydra base, and we see the staff there. Take me through some of this scene, Jake.
We kind of get to see the experiments being done, but nobody saw it. But basically, the viewers and Wanda, we see that they didn't even understand what happened. So it was interesting how she was able to kind of connect with the stone for whatever reason. Again, we don't really get it. She was able to see through its barrier in the scepter there, and then really sort of connect with it. And apparently did power up her powers a lot. But it was interesting to see Scarlet Witch, like a silhouette of her in the stone. So what this really means, I think it kind of just has to do with just a premonition of the future. We know that for other certain sorcerers and powers like hers, that they can see into the past and sometimes into the future. So I don't know if that's sort of what it was going off of. In the initial scene with Agatha, we did see her mother right before she died manifest the crown that Wanda has on her. So I don't know, maybe is she a descendant of Agatha? I mean, that's possible, I guess, but a little confusing still at this point.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. And that's a good parallel there too, when it comes to the crown, and then, that vision that she sees. Again, it's like, in a lot of these comic book movies, it's like, yeah, it is really cool when they bring all the lore right over to the big screen, but they never truly do. And so, getting back to my point about her powers here, that was, a different spin on things that I thought was really cool, as far as, the stone and the cosmic universe, and that giving her powers. Because up until this episode right now, we're of the mindset that this Wanda Maximoff that we know in the MCU is not a mutant, that she got her powers from the stone. Well, now they're saying that her powers were enhanced. So it's like, okay, if you're going to do this, definitely make her a mutant. You know what I mean? Because if you don't now, it's like, that's really dumb. It's like you took a good spin away, a good change that we've seen that was pretty cool. But then you're also not going to make her a mutant. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it kind of leads you to wonder, like, what were they thinking in Age of Ultron? Like, I don't know if they didn't have future plans for these characters at the point, because their origin is so convoluted at this point that, yeah, they basically need to be X-Men. Doing some research, of course, they were born with the mutant gene. But apparently, Wanda, as an infant, was touched by the god Chthon, who was one insane being in the Marvel universe that we haven't seen yet, and that's sort of what gave her abilities to use the chaos magic. So I guess that's what they're going with the stone. I mean, instead of a being giving her his powers, it's the stone. I guess it kind of makes sense, but yeah, they do have to bring it around to how did she get some sort of powers in the first place, and of course, only logical explanation would be X-Men.
Yeah, and they can do it. I mean, this opens it up for Magneto to be her biological dad, like she is in the comics, and her parents that we saw in this episode were just adoptive parents or something of that nature. But I guess we'll find out. There's still one more episode. I still have some hope here. So now we're going through door number 3, and we get to the Avengers compound. Agatha is, she's starting to see how things are working. She's getting an idea of how Wanda is putting everything together, how this is all coming about with the reality. But obviously, she's pushing her more. So Wanda's sitting in her bedroom here. She's watching Malcolm in the Middle. Thought that was kind of funny.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is right after Pietro dies in Age of Ultron, and so Vision comes in the room. He's trying to comfort her, in this time, and obviously Wanda's having a difficult time with everything. Of course, she's talking about how her depression is like waves that are constantly pounding her down and making her fall, and she's afraid of drowning. And Vision says that that's not going to happen. I really love this scene. I think it's probably the best scene in my opinion. I thought it was just really good. But yeah, so Vision says it can't all be sorrow, and he says, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And so just a really great moment. Definitely struck a chord with me. Obviously I can really relate to that, and I feel like there's a lot of truth to that statement. And of course, with Wanda here, she's feeling all this pain, but it's because she has, such a strong bond and love for her family, for her brother and her parents. So, yeah, I thought that was great, and just a really, really great scene from both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. But how do you feel about this?
Yeah, definitely. It was a great scene, and it really shows, again, more of their relationship, but how it kind of came to be because, they were only in basically Avengers movies together in Civil War, which was basically an Avengers movie. So they didn't have much screen time together. There wasn't really that many scenes that showed us the development of their relationship. So it really shows you,
Right.
Vision being there for it and them coming together, which was pretty cool. It's nice to see stuff like that. So yeah, great thing.
Now we're going to door number 4, and we see what really happened with Wanda and Hayward and their interaction. This was really interesting. Did you want to take us through this?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was interesting to see, and I'm honestly surprised we didn't really get this before in the previous episodes. But yeah, she goes in there, sort of a scene that we've seen before, Vision torn apart like that. And I guess my thinking was that, oh, she just put them back together and then took them to Westview, right? But yeah, it was definitely different to see.
Yeah, I was waiting to see that happen, right?
Exactly. So yeah, she just kind of lets it go and sort of moves on, and of course something triggers her later. But yeah, it really again shows us Hayward's lying again, because I mean, just leads us to believe that she took him and that's how it came to be. But really, from what we've seen from her powers, she's definitely capable of recreating somebody or creating somebody all completely new.
Yeah, again, you really feel the emotion there when Hayward says that he doesn't belong to you, and that's when Wanda breaks the glass. It goes down there, and the guards and the soldiers are ready to confine her, but she gets to have this moment with Vision, where she says that she can't feel him anymore. And again, then we start to again feel more for Wanda and what she's going through. So another great scene. She decides to leave. You know, apparently this is the real Westview. We're starting to see, the people that we've seen in the sitcom. That the actors that were in the sitcom. So that was cool. That was interesting. And then she gets to like this abandoned field, and she opens up this paper. And what I got from it is that Vision may have like purchased this land for them to live there in Westview, and we see like the little heart with the V on there, with the spot that they're supposed to live, where they're supposed to build their house, I believe. So that was really cool. Talk to me about this.
Yeah, it kind of gave us some clarity about Westview. At first, I was like, "Oh man, this place is a dump. Why did Vision buy something here?" But we have to remember, oh, this is after the snap, and I'm sure the economy went to trash at that point and all of that. So it makes a little bit more sense. Mm-hmm. And we see, yeah, like a lot of the people, like the mailman, like people thought he was important at some point, but apparently he's, I don't know, like a Uber Eats delivery guy or something. That's what it basically seems like. But to back up a little bit, was that Dee just sitting there the whole time, or did it seem to you like it almost appeared in her car? Like it almost looked like she didn't realize what it was at first.
It did seem that way. I was like, oh, someone put something in her car. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, it would make sense for Vision to do something like this before the snap. But then it would again leave you with a million other questions of why and how somebody would know to do that, how would they know that would trigger that? And that just doesn't seem plausible, but who knows? That just kind of was a little strange to me how it kind of switched from, oh, I'm going to go get Vision's body to, oh, I'm going on this adventure to Westview, I guess. But yeah, from this scene on, this moment again that they were going to build their house there, and then kind of her powers coming to life, and she does build their house there, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so she has that emotional breakdown. Obviously very sad. Again, really facing the trauma of everything and grieving, and that's what caused her powers to spike and build that the hex, this alternate reality, and the Westview that we've come to see in the WandaVision sitcom. So that's how it all came about. Now we get back to Agatha's house, and they are facing off, in the streets, because she can hear, Wanda can hear the kids, crying out for her, and Agatha has, some kind of like magic strings tied to their necks, choking them out a little bit, which is a little intense. And she's talking to Wanda about who Wanda is, and her powers, her chaos magic, and says that she's this, that makes her the Scarlet Witch. And so we finally get her name from the comics. So that was cool. And that's kind of how the episode ends. Of course, we do have the post credit scene. But is there anything that you want to touch on from this conclusion here?
Yeah, it just kind of leaves you wondering, like, what does Agatha want? Like, I still don't know. Like, I still don't get it. She's just trying to learn about Wanda for this episode. Is it possible to take somebody's chaos magic? I have no idea. So I don't know what she wants at this point. She leaves her basement where she was perfectly safe from Wanda. She couldn't use her powers there, and brings her outside where they can actually fight. But is that her goal to fight her? It still leaves a lot of questions about her motives and everything like that. Again, going back to the comments, like we've discussed, that Mephisto, and sort of she's taken on the role of Mephisto in the House of M, was to get the power from her children. So is that still happening? Is she still needing the twins? Because it's been seeming like all along that they were a vital part of their plan. So I guess I just still have a lot of questions with only like 45 minutes of episode left. So
I was really thinking that Vision was going to swoop in there and like hit Agatha or whatever, just like take her out for a second.
Man, he's still stuck in traffic, isn't he? That's been going
now
on
he's
forever.
like flying traffic, I guess, because remember he got out of the van.
He did get out last episode, and he still hasn't got there. Man, it's taking forever. But
I didn't understand that. And again, like this is where the conclusion is where it could tie back into the intro, but it doesn't really, like you said, it's still so much up in the air, like with Agatha's motives. I don't understand either. We're gonna figure it out eventually, but yeah, definitely some disappointments there, but overall, a lot of really cool stuff for sure, and great moments, some great acting, and really being able to see Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany do just a great job with their chemistry and their chemistry on screen. But let's talk about the post credit scene. I think it was pretty awesome. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, I like that these next episodes have had post credit scenes. Those are always fun. And thankfully, they're not at the very end; they're at the mid post credit scene, so that's nice. So you don't have to sit through like 10 minutes of credits. Anyways, again, hey, Hayward's the bad guy yet again. Recreating Vision, which I guess he has the rights to. It seems pretty iffy ethically, that's for sure. But as we've seen before, he really doesn't think of him as anything but a weapon. And so, yeah, Wanda never took him. He's had Vision's body this whole time. And I'm not going to get into the science behind it, but he somehow uses a drone that had Wanda's powers on it to power Vision up somehow. So good for him to figure that one out. But yeah, now we finally see White Vision, which again is taken from the comics. And he looks a little bit different. He almost looked like he had like an arc reactor in his head, sort of Iron Man's upside down triangle from Iron Man 2. But it's probably not the same thing, but gives him a little bit of a different look. And so I guess we have two enemies now.
Yeah, so you think he's going to be a bad guy? Because from what I've read as far as like White Vision, like he's, I mean, robots are, Vision's not a super emotional guy, obviously, but White Vision is even less so, like, lacking with emotions. But is he for sure a villain, you think?
I mean, at this point, I think he's just a robot, and robots just do what you tell them to. So it's whether or not Hayward's the villain at this point, which, again, he's not done anything villainous. He just has sort
An
of
agenda, like his own agenda.
He has his own agenda, and he has some iffy morals and ethical things that he does. But it seems like his goal is still to get Vision back. I mean, he's been tracking Vision inside the Hex. Even though he already had his own Vision, why does he want a second one? Again, motives are still very unclear at this point.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that out, because that doesn't make sense to me anymore either.
Yeah, exactly. So does he expect his Vision to stop the other Vision and Wanda? Like, I mean, it seems like a lot. So exactly what his plan is, we got to see from his side too, I guess.
Because why did he make that video? He obviously created that video, kind of framing Wanda of stealing Vision's body, and then, alluding to her, taking his body and then reanimating him, bringing him life from his actual corpse. But that's not what happened. We see that she created him from her memories of him.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. It's just framing her a reason to bring Vision back to life, so he has a enemy to use his weapon against. I don't know. It didn't feel like that was necessary. It didn't seem like anybody was opposing him in bringing Vision back. So why he has it out for Wanda, I don't know. It definitely does seem like that though. He wasn't even concerned with Wanda in there. He just wanted Vision, and clearly identifies Wanda as the villain. So I don't know. I mean, we don't know much about him other than he's acting sword director right now. Yeah, that's about all we can say at this point. It's exactly what his motives are, and Agatha's too. We'll just have to wait till next week.
Do we want to do a little bit of speculation on what's going to happen for the finale?
Sure. Yeah, I'll throw one thing out there. From the beginning, we've seen that James Spader is on the cast sheets for this show. I'm hoping that White Vision is cast or is voiced by James Spader, kind of giving a nod back to Ultron. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, he's got to have a voice somewhere. I mean, I guess you would say that he still has parts of Jarvis in him if he's kind of brought back online. But I mean, he was
Could
also
Ultron
created.
come back and then White Vision's body?
Seems like a lot to do in like 45 minutes, but I guess it's anything is possible. But that's one thing I think might happen.
Okay. I heard today, because we go back to Elizabeth Olsen saying there's going to be a Luke Skywalker level cameo. I guess there's some kind of villain. I think it's a villain. I can't remember his name. It starts with a C, I believe. But anyways,
Chiton.
Maybe. But that Mark Hamill voices him in some kind of animated show or something.
I would not be surprised. I mean, Mark Hamill, amazing voice actor.
Yeah, well, so there's it might be him, but some character that Mark Hamill has voiced, and now there's speculation that it's going to be Mark Hamill being that character in live action. So that
would be awesome.
Maybe.
I mean, I've seen really mixed things about this character. Like, you had people last week who would be like, "Oh, that army friends of Monica was the person she was talking about." I don't think so. I've heard people saying
I don't think so either.
It was like a joke by Paul Bettany to say that it was an actor that he's always wanted to work with, when now he's basically working with himself because there's two visions. Like, it was a joke because he was going on about, oh, this guy's a genius, he's such a brilliant actor, and now he's working with himself because there's two of them. I don't think it's that either. I think that'd be way too stupid and disappointing. There's just so many theories out there. But then, of course, we're assuming the one they're talking about is also Monica's friends, because, I mean, how many new characters are we going to throw in at the last episode? I don't know. There's so much to go off of. And then we are assuming, again, Benedict Cumberbatch is on the cast for this show. Also, he has to come in the last episode. So yeah, there's just going to be so much going on. It's going to be crazy.
All right, before we wrap things up, what would just completely disappoint you next week? What would make it not a good, finale?
Good question. I would have to say if they spent like 20-25 minutes of Wanda running around trying to fight Agatha and Vision running around trying to fight other Vision, and then we spend too much time on everything returning to normal, which I don't think is going to have that sort of happy ending. So I don't think that's going to be it. It could be like that, but then there's secretly something going on in the multiverse that we don't realize is sort of connected to this. I could see it being something like that, where Wanda thinks she fixed everything, but she really didn't. She still screwed up. Because if she really does end up being the bad guy, I feel like she's going to be the good guy in Doctor Strange. So she kind of needs to flip over at this point, which I feel like she kind of has. And then, yeah, just if something like Doctor Strange being in the post-credit scene, and then that's all we see of him, or something like Pietro disappears and we never see him again, which I'm feeling like it's really going to happen, because she said that she's just a nobody, or he's just a nobody. But are we saying that she gave him super speed? Like, does she have that capability? Agatha herself?
Right.
Like, her whole thing is she just does mind control, and she has she can take people through time and stuff like that, see the past, see the future, sort of like a fortune teller, which is basically what Wanda's based off of herself. So I don't know. And also in the comics, Agatha isn't necessarily evil. She has her own agenda and she goes back and forth. So she might not even be the bad guy really at this point, depending on what her motives are, because we don't know them.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we still have Pietro and Monica outside the house too. And so I feel like it could be like 3 separate battles going on, like Monica fighting Pietro, and then, of course, Wanda and Vision. And I feel like if they just spent a lot of time on that, although the action could be cool, I'm not necessarily looking for hardcore action in this show. I'm looking forward to it in Falcon and Winter Soldier. I feel like that's an action film, and that's going to be great. This needs to have more mystery, more shock, more surprises for the final episode.
Yeah, definitely. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment a little bit, just because I want them to introduce X-Men so bad, and I feel like that will definitely sting if they don't. Again, I don't want them to miss these really great opportunities that just are obvious and make sense. And like you said, don't need a ton of action really. You just need a really impactful, meaningful, again, heartfelt ending. Again, it doesn't have to be like your happy ending exactly, but definitely something that packs a punch. In a way that we really care. We want to care, and some of the stuff in this episode didn't really care about, but a lot of it we did, and so definitely want more of that. Want more Wanda and Vision, and really being able to possibly conclude that relationship, because I think that there's a chance that Vision could die for good this time. But what do you think about that?
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I'll start off with what you're saying about Vision. Wanda specifically mentions that he didn't get a memorial. And in Spider-Man Far From Home, which takes place after this show, Vision is shown along with Iron Man and Captain America as the fallen heroes from Infinity War and Endgame. So if people in high school are really taking notice of actually Vision contributed and his death mattered, it's possible that they're not even referencing him dying at the hand of Thanos. It could be him dying at the hands of the other Vision. I really hope not, but I really think it's going to be, a suicide kill, basically, where he has to kill himself to destroy the other Vision. Which again wouldn't really make sense, because I feel like Wanda's so powerful at this point that she can take anybody herself, and why she really needs to do that. Or maybe he'll sacrifice himself for the kids or something like that. But of course, that just leads you back into, oh, why can't she just recreate him again? I don't know. But I feel like there's going to be some way where Vision's gone. I mean, if you just look at it, it appears that he is not in Doctor Strange with Wanda. That would make sense that they would be together if he was still alive. We know Paul Bettany is not signed on to do anymore.
It's kind of just given the hints that he's gone, in my opinion.
Right. And it's like anytime you face like any kind of like traumatic event or anything, there's always this level where you don't necessarily have to forget what happened, but you do have to let go of it holding you back from living your life, and like being yourself. You don't want it to weigh you down, right? And so I feel like Wanda needs that moment of letting go, not completely just like forgetting about Vision, but letting go of the loss affect her life so negatively. You know what I mean? Instead of having a positive outcome, which we may not get fully here, but eventually we need her to have a positive outcome where she, goes on and doesn't forget, but she honors Vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. You just can't really have everything. I mean, obviously her parents aren't coming back, but currently her brother is sort of here along with Vision. But yeah, it can't just be the perfect happy ending. She can't have everything she wants back. And of course, there's got to be consequences for bringing them back. Otherwise, why wouldn't she just bring back every character ever, right? It just doesn't make sense. There has to be consequences. There has to be rules. And I think one of the rules is you can't keep them around, right? So yeah, I think maybe that'll kind of be the emotional sting at the end of this show where she has to let Vision go.
Yeah, and his I think really his dominant quality is self-sacrifice. I feel like Vision has always been that character. I feel like that's one of the reasons why the audience is drawn to him. Why he's a lovable character is because he's willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for his friends, and because it's really interesting because he's not he's not human. You know what I mean? And so it's definitely these, really awesome layers to his character and his personality that we really care about and really appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. He's always been a favorite of mine since he got introduced. So yeah, I'll be sad if that's the end of him, but at least we got more after Infinity War. It was really sad that he wasn't in Endgame because like everybody was there but him. But it was nice to see him more in these episodes. And yeah, it's been a good ride if this is the end. But as far as what I'm hoping for, quick battle, finish it off, give us some mystery and something to look forward to in Doctor Strange. Hopefully what I'm going for is Nightmare. If he somehow introduced at the end here, that'd be awesome. I want some a few minutes at least of Doctor Strange. I prefer if Pietro stays around and becomes the Quicksilver and helps guide the X-Men into the MCU. And if the character that everybody's been talking about is either an X-Men or a member of the Fantastic Four, I'll be completely satisfied with that. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, give us Fassbender, Magneto, like maybe even crushing White Vision. That'd be cool because he is metal, right?
Yeah, I mean
part metal.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I could go for that. My hope, which probably will never happen, is just John Krasinski as Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. That would be my top one. But yeah, I guess anybody really from the Fox X-Men movies would be cool to see. Somebody else, because we already have Evan Peters. So yeah, anybody really, as long as it's a big notable superhero, would be cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking forward to that next week. And obviously we're going to do something special for next week's episode and bring on some guests and just have a great conversation, great review of that show, of that episode. So yeah, I think it's been fun tonight. We definitely broke down a lot of stuff. It's been good. We appreciate our listeners, our viewers here on YouTube. Again, please continue to support our shows here and on all the other platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We appreciate you guys and have a lot of fun doing this show. Last thing noteworthy, we are dropping a very special episode here. It is a special Star Wars episode, and it's a crossover episode. The Starfighter podcast, myself and Jake, alongside the Sidekicks podcast. Go and check them out. They are really great as well. Our friends over there, Marcellus and Nathan, we're doing this crossover Star Wars episode, and we're talking about all these powerful characters in the world of Star Wars. We have a blast. It was, I think, one of our favorite shows to do. Definitely going to be one of many that we do, these crossover episodes. But yeah, go and check that out. By the time you're seeing this show, it'll already be out on our channel. So check that crossover episode out. It'll be great. And yeah, that's it from us. We, again, thank you all. We're signing out here at the Starfighter podcast. We'll see you next time.
All right, until next time.